Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder, Path Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino. We're going to try something a little different today. We're doing some high-tech remote YouTubing. So, hello. Talk about the end of quarter run that never came. Well, we got a little bit, but it wasn't just in the last couple days. Hey, John. George, if you told me I could only watch one YouTube video today, this is the one I click on, then we should have 1 million views per video. No, thank you, George. That means a lot. Thank you. Please give me good news on Bitcoin. When are we going to 5K? Well, we're going to 10K first. So I think it triggered another mini double top today, hit the first target. Micron's getting absolutely destroyed after earnings announcement. GDP estimate came in very ugly. We'll take a look at that. S&P caps first half plunge at 21%, worst since 1970. Anissa, welcome. Good evening. Hope you had a wonderful day. Nasdaq 100 finishes first half down 30%, most since 2002. What was it? 2002? Tesla quarter is worst ever. Amazon drop is deepest since 2001. Thank you. Hey, Davey. Hey, AP's World again. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You know what to do. If you're new, subscribe, like, and leave some comments. Thank you. I'm going to bring Bob on real quick tomorrow morning. We're not out of the woods just yet. S&P PMI tomorrow, 8:45 Central. ISM 9 o'clock, and you have the especially the prices aspect of that. So that's still going on tomorrow. Your heat map pretty ugly today, but you got that flush out move, and then the snapback again, 75% basis point still favoring, about 86% still in negative gamma. Just mentioned Micron after hours getting ultimately destroyed on horrible guidance. So with that, let me try to bring Bob on. Bob's looks like you're in a car.
I am in a car. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Can everybody else? Can everybody hear Bob? I imagine if I can hear you. So, how are you doing?
I just so you guys know, I can't see anything. Like the screen is so small. I'm doing this on my phone because I didn't want to miss today. But my wife was working. I think I've said it before. She works as she's in liquor distribution, and her car broke down. So we're actually at one of her clients, a place called Food and Thought in Naples, which is actually really good if you ever get down here. And we're waiting for the roadside assistance to come and get her car. So that's where I'm at.
Wave wants to know if you're in a Hellcat. I think that's your Mustang, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Mustang. It's not a Hellcat. I did have these seats done to look like Hellcat, though, just so you know.
Oh,
I had these. Yeah, these seats are an upgrade from what they come from the factory.
Ferrari Bob sounds clear. Sounds good. Yeah, well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, it was, it just had that little flush out stuff, hunting for stops, and the snapback rally.
Yeah.
Missed the inverse head and shoulders in the 5 minute. It started to run up, but I didn't miss the 15 minute. Yeah, the 15 minute double top was fantastic. I played puts on the flush out. Thank you. That's what we're here for. George says, Bob, everyone here would replace Powell for you in a heartbeat. What would it take for you to be Fed chair?
Just all they'd have to do is appoint me, and I would promptly turn it down. So that's all it would take.
Paul says Bob must visit Seed to Table while here in Naples.
Oh, that's so good, Paul.
So
This is crazy though. Place is nuts. If you ever want to drink till two in the morning at a grocery store, Seed to Table is your place.
Do you want to stay on camera, or do you want to just switch to audio?
Let's just switch to audio so that I can just kind of put the phone down and listen. But if there's any questions for me, I'd appreciate them, because I don't have the AC up all the way, simply because the blower is too loud on here. But yeah, so if you got any questions for me, and then I'll get out of this.
I have questions.
What do you got?
All right. What do you think with the GDP now estimate coming in at? I mean, this is just an estimate, but I actually have a dual question. So
Yeah.
this is coming in at -1%, which will be all over the place. Then this is
Mm-hmm.
Q2, but this comes out with the Atlanta Fed, right?
Yeah.
Now, where does the Fed keep say? I mean, they say they don't see any cracks in anything. But they literally put out a tool which the first quarter was negative and came in negative, and then the tool in the second quarter is pretty deep. Well, that's it's not like point one. That's -1, and yeah, it could
Yeah.
recover before then because it's still an estimate.
Sure.
But it's like are they just focused on employment, or because there's other cracks?
So yes is the short answer. The long answer is Raphael Bostic not a voting member, so they might be telling him to shut up in the background. That's Raphael Bostic, head of the Atlanta Fed. But the Atlanta Fed Index is something we watch a lot. We watched it a lot. You've seen it go from positive 1.8 to -1 in 3 weeks. So I suspect the Fed is thinking it can reverse and go back to positive really quickly. And the third thing would be they don't think of that as a recession. They follow National Bureau of Economic Research proclamation of a recession, which I'm telling you, they're not going to do it unless unemployment is somewhere near 6.5%. They're just not going to say it's a recession. So he
So
can keep saying it's not going to be a recession. Um, somebody's got to tell him, okay, what do you call something that's really, really painful to your average everyday person that is not a recession? What do we call that? And that's the question I would ask him. And this is why I couldn't be Fed chair. Mike, can you imagine me getting questioned by Congress? You imagine
actually, I
Elizabeth
could.
Warren. You imagine Elizabeth Warren saying, "What are you going to do about this?" And I'd be like, "Hey, fuck you. How about that? That's what I'm going to do about it. That's what I'm going to do about it. Fuck you."
And
Sorry,
that's
this is a clean live stream.
it was a clean, generally a clean YouTube channel until you come.
If there's any strikes against this channel, just I won't be on for 3 weeks if you want. Look, my thing on the data the last couple of days, Mikey, and you pointed out the GDP now. GDP was revised lower and prices were revised higher for Q1. So things are worse than we thought it was before. After that, GDP now came in and revised their forecast for GDP lower. Then we get the PCE, and the PCE is slightly lower, right? But consumers, so PCE was a tenth lower, both on the headline and the core, and then consumer spending was half of the estimate. So consumer spending was a way bigger negative than the positive you might get from PCE. Now, crude oil is moderating a little bit. I've said this before, you can see inflation actually having peaked maybe and moderating a little bit. But guys, think about inflation as an index, okay? So if an example would be if inflation is up 8% and inflation was at 200, that means it would now be at 204, right? That's 8%, right, Mike? Yeah. So it would now be at 204, right? Wait, 216. So if inflation goes to zero, it stays at 216. Okay? It stays there. So that means you don't get any relief on where prices are. So imagine if food and energy and household expenses like where you live, rents and mortgages, etc., the cost to house yourself stays where it is now. Is that such a good thing for an economy? So if we see CPI drop to 1.2%, right, that means now that 216 is going up to like 230 or whatever, 220 or whatever it would be. It's still going up from a very, very high level. Okay, so crude oil now fell this week, right? It's still at 107, man. That's still $4.50 a gallon. So things are not good.
Nope, things are not good. Coco Bob's in his car, so we're doing audio only at this point. Uh,
Yeah.
Bob, France's finance minister has revised growth for 2022 down from 4% to 2.5. I think isn't that still a bit much in your opinion?
Yeah, it is. They'll revise it lower again. One of the things we always say about analysts, and it's the same about government analysts and central bankers, is they'll always catch up to the reality rather than predict the reality. especially when the reality is negative. Stock guys do this too. Stock analysts, the guys that don't trade, but their job is to come up with a target price. When like let's say that I don't know where any current stocks are right now. If I picked one off of my little watch list here, crap, my app shut down. Let's just say I'm going to look at. Come on, open up. I want to use a real price. Let's just say I'm going to look at Lowe's, okay? And I have a target price of Lowe's $225. It closed at about 175. Now Lowe's goes down to 150. I'll drop my target to 175. Now Lowe's goes down to 125. I'll drop my target to 135. Then it goes up to 135, and I go, yay, I'm right. That's what stock analysts do. That's also what government analysts do. They do the exact same thing. So don't worry about their estimates. Worry about what's happening in your backyard, and worry about price action as it references to your trading.
And what you just mentioned is something I mentioned yesterday with, analysts are horrible in recessions with earnings projections.
Yep.
Horrible. At it. So that's why a lot of stocks even stay high. People go, well, wait, the PE ratios come back down, and then the earnings just get. They're like looking at the forward, not the company's forward guidance, but the analyst earnings stuff, and then the companies just completely miss it, and it's like, oops. That's the worst. Analysts are the worst ever in recessions. I mean, they're not good, period, overall. But you don't want to listen to analysts in recessions, whether it's labeled a recession or not. Officially, because that's just. I wish we did have an official definition still, because we could say, hey, look, the numbers say this, but it's now like, when we call it a recession, it'll be a recession. Yeah, Coco, what do you think the bottom's in on? Yes, natural gas plummeted today. Didn't they say the pipeline? There's something about the pipeline needs more repairs, so it's not. Natural gas is not going to really flow from that facility in Texas over to Europe, and Europe's going to be in a world of hurt. Europe is going to be. Bob had to go on mute. He's dealing with stuff. Let's see. George, I was there in 2008, and so many things are happening again. Now, like Bernanke denied a recession until it printed out. Are you telling me you didn't know this number was coming out? Powell? Powell had to know what the... What?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Real quick on the natural gas thing. Natural gas can't be exported unless it's liquefied. An LNG refinery had an explosion, and they are not able to work, and they say it's going to be somewhere in the range of 8 to 12 months before they can. So there's an excess of natural gas supplies in the U.S. What's on the screen, I'm assuming that's a natural gas chart, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
What's on the screen right now is U.S. natural gas. If you look at a European natural gas chart, it looks the opposite of this. So that's what that is. Sorry about that.
Yeah, because with the pipeline situation with Russia, it could be off, like, at this point indefinitely.
Yep.
Germany is going to be, and a bunch of Europe come winter is going to be in a world of hurt unless something doesn't change. So that's going to get very interesting. That's why you had the big plummet today, because they clarified that this isn't, it's what I was alluding to. It's not going to, we're not going to be able to export. So it's better for people in this country, but it's horrible for Europe. George was saying, like when Powell was talking yesterday, didn't he know what the Atlanta Fed their model would show like today? Can you hear me? Bob's, you're back on mute. Let me know. He might be having a little internet issue. Yeah, he dropped. So once he gets back on, let me go through some price action. Sorry about the little difficulty, but we wanted to get him on. Again, we've had this pullback, end of quarter, down 4 in a row. Let me see here. Are you back, Bob?
Am I back?
You are back.
Yeah, I just disconnected and reconnected. I mean, whether Powell knew what the Atlanta Fed GDP was going to say or not, their model might have been based on this morning's data. So what you're implying is the Fed gets the data early, and they may or they may not. But understand that Jerome Powell is saying there's going to be a recession. We're saying that there's going to be job losses. Saying this as a certainty as opposed to a possibility is like your doctor going to you and saying, look, you're really sick and you're going to die. What would you like us to do to fix it? You know what I mean? I mean, he can't do it. So when the Fed comes out and say we want to be honest and transparent, they can't. Imagine the backlash if he said, in order to get inflation under control, we need to hike inflation to the point where unemployment triples and there's a massive recession. What would the backlash be to Jerome Powell? Would there be a public backlash and a political, more than public, backlash to fire him from the job? Biden would probably have to fire him. And then the next chair would have to do the exact same thing and would just lie about it. So, you know, a little fairness to the guy is probably in order, only because, like, what's he supposed to do? He can't come out and say, I'm trying to double the unemployment, drive us to recession. All he can keep saying is, I'm committed to price stability, and hope that we actually figure out what he means by that. And as far as I'm concerned, if what he's saying is true and there's nothing that can deter him from fighting inflation, he's trying to tell us there's going to be a recession. Get ready for it, and I really don't care if it hurts you or not.
Can I ask a question then with his quote yesterday? We understand better how little we understand about inflation.
Yeah.
Because I need you to touch on that. Because my head popped off.
That's his way of saying we were wrong on the transitory nature of inflation. That's all that was, without him saying it. For him to say we understand how little we don't know, there were all kinds of people telling him that probably those last two stimulus checks were going to drive inflation. But again, let me play devil's advocate and be fair to him. There's been a lot of stimulus over the last 8-10 years that did not drive recession. Now, I would argue that it was a cumulative effect. But I guarantee you that if there was a way to do it, I can't do it. Maybe there is a way for academics to do it. It was those last two checks, and especially that last one, and the continued buying of mortgage-backed securities when the housing market was on fire. I had somebody on Twitter reach out to me when I said, look, it was that last stimulus check and maybe the last two that caused the inflation we're seeing now. And I attached it to that motion chart that Mike played in the webinar on Tuesday, right? I attached it to that. And somebody said, what about the pandemic? Blaming the pandemic for inflation is like, imagine it's pouring rain and you just painted your house and you don't want it to get wet, so you set it on fire. And then you blame the rain for your house burning down. That's what blaming the pandemic is, okay? It's the reaction to the pandemic that caused the inflation, not the pandemic. Nowhere in history has a massive amount of illness ever driven inflation. If anything, it's driven recession and depression, but not inflation. It was the reaction to the pandemic that created the situation we're in now. And then it was the slow reaction of the Federal Reserve while Jerome Powell waited to get confirmed, waited to get reappointed and then confirmed. In my opinion, that leaves us where we're at right now.
But I thought literally, they're tasked with price stability and, employment. You have two, which I think it should still just be price stability, but it's like,
agreed.
Again, you're saying this is your only role.
Oh, and the other thing now is they rejiggered employment to be inclusive employment.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell the Fed is supposed to do about inclusive employment. I mean, it's nonsensical. It just makes no sense to include that.
Nothing makes sense anymore. Nothing makes sense. Anything else you want to touch on? You're muted again, Bob. He went muted. You're muted. He'll have to dial back in if he can. All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but it's, going into the long weekend. Remember, July 4th on Monday for everybody overseas, so the markets stocks are closed, but there'll still be futures open. Here we dialing back in. All right, you're back.
All right, last time. Is there any more questions for me? Because obviously I keep losing
I
connection.
don't
So,
see any questions, but is there anything else you want to state anymore?
no, I really just wanted to touch on yesterday and today's data. I almost jumped into the live stream yesterday to talk about the GDP, but I figured I'd wait for the PCE to go into it.
All right. Well, thank you for making this work today,
Of course.
and I
All right,
will.
I will talk to you guys later. If there's anything really big tomorrow, I'll jump in. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys on Tuesday.
Okay. Thanks.
See ya.
All right, everybody. Could somebody put something in the comments and let me know if it's still working? Because I'm not seeing anything, and that's very unusual. So I'm just going to keep going. If we missed a comment, it didn't show up, then let me know, and we'll have to address it later. S&P, just to recap. Yeah, I'm not seeing any comments. Wow. Hold on one second. Let me see here. Let me see here. Because the last thing I see was from George. I'm just trying to take a look here. Oh, shush. Let's see. Oh, boy. What a mess. Technical difficulties. All right, I'm just going over. I talked about to watch for the flush out move this morning. We had it. We had the momentum here. Little spike reversal. This was a very lopsided head and shoulders. So let's see here. Got it. I see. I'm back on. Hold on. If I missed your comments, they are stuck in. Sorry. They are stuck in Ecamm. So now I'm trying to watch this on YouTube. I'll get to that, George. I see it. I'm trying to now you're gonna really see me look around since I can't see the comments on Ecamm. Let me try to close that and reopen it. But why does it just have to always happen all at the same time? Overlays. Give me 1 second. I'm really sorry about this. Oh boy. All right. This is tough. I'll have to keep glancing back and forth. So don't I'm sorry again. Let's see. Yeah, I see that. Mike shouldn't have dissed the Fed. I've been shadow banned. All right. So we had this little quick reversal coming up. That's a double top. I think Sterling, you talked about that coming back down and hitting that second target twice. You see that in the S&P. See that double top. It's why you got to learn these things yourself. You should at least be able to spot them yourself and come up with the levels. And you see hitting there in the NASDAQ and the Dow coming to the second target also. So all three of those, what we're going to look is at slightly bigger macro picture. And I'll also show something else. Let me just pull these off. Remember to watch your rotation zones because, with this rally back into that 4-hour rotation zone and the bigger breakdown zone right here, and then the rotation over. Now, on a daily basis, which at this point, we've got the close below on the 4-hour, but on the daily basis, we snap back. So I'm really going to wait to make any. Again, if we close black below this 37.55 area tomorrow, then I will really start shifting to bearish mode next week. I'm waiting for that key daily close, especially with this being quarter and month end. And remember, we can still get interesting price action tomorrow morning. Interesting price action tomorrow morning. We can also update our harmonics. So overnight, I'm essentially using this 1-bar harmonic. I showed that before. If we roll back down, First area is 37.82. Then I'm watching 37.71. If we close below this little 1 bar harmonic, then I'll be watching for the retest. Otherwise, I'm watching for especially the 62.5 to hold up. On a rally, my major area is 38.14 and then the high area. So that's what I'll be watching for, especially with the European Open. So that's how I'm dealing with this. Remember, we still have cycles aren't yet on the bottom of the daily, and they're pretty much flat, but still can easily tip down on the weekly even further. So I am leading a slightly more bearish since we did get that 4-hour close below that, but still being July 1st tomorrow, end of week. A lot of people are extending it into a 4-day, holiday. Lots of the bigger traders are, bugging out this afternoon after the close and turning the desks over to more of the junior traders and say, I just need these things executed. So keep that in mind, please. I was surprised that we finished red today. Not with the market imbalances. You should watch those market imbalances. Not after we had the sell in Europe session and the flush out this morning. We snapped back, but we had a lot to overcome. The markets had a lot to overcome with this big down move from Europe and then the flush out move this morning. I mean, it tried to sustain it, and I was thinking it was going to try to snap back even higher, but we ran that 4-hour rotation zone and formed that double. So you see the NASDAQ coming back down. I was watching that 75% harmonic to about 11,390. We got the spike reversal in there. We already went over the double top. So all that is pretty much done. Just going to drag this down. The NASDAQ looks like it might, this is fascinating, might just close pretty much right at that harmonic. I mean, this is, it could get very interesting. By the way, the next levels, if we do break down below today's low in the NASDAQ, which we got that 4-hour close, we might just get that daily close right below it. And I hate when that happens. It could close right on it. But that would favor a return 11,237 to 11,214 and then 11,123 on a down move tomorrow. Again, the key area, I love to use these 1-bar harmonics, and you see that's the 62.5. So we start breaking down overnight below 11,477. I'm targeting 11,434 and then 11,393 area. If on a bounce, I just use the harmonics, 11,560 and then 11,601. And remember, really having lifting against that 4-hour rotation zone. We'll just cover the Dow tomorrow. Crude. What? We had this little mini double earlier in the day. You see stalling out. That was the only real major trade in crude. And we're rolling back down. I'm watching for crude to really retest this trend line. And we closed below there. Remember, we just barely closed below that 62.5 for 4. If we do break that trend line, then I'm targeting back to 100 to 98.60. Natural gas with that announcement that the pipeline not going to be fixed anytime soon. Just we got that aggressive buy slamming into the daily rotation zone. That's why you constantly have to move up stops. And then the big roll over. Now cycles are going to be rolling over again. So we could easily see continued price action down in that. One of the great trades today was the notes. Still, the potential double is in play. This did not invalidate it yet. Coming up to that next harmonic. 118.15 stop raising. Remember, I generally raise the stops on that first harmonic. Then we have the cluster overhead. Key support now on the notes is right around 118.05. And if we did drop below that, I'm focusing on that 12.5 to the rising 4-hour rotation zone. So 118 to about 117.29. Dollar index, we do still have this little mini valid double. So watching for that. VIX little up move, and then reversal, pretty much closing at the gap at the open level from yesterday. By the way, I mentioned before on that custom index, this potential double top, that's off the table. Japanese 10-year still holding. The still potential double on the yen. Again, Swissy, look, no trigger yet. And by the way, Bitcoin, wanted to go through Bitcoin, then we'll get to some other stuff. Bitcoin coming back down to this double top. This double top I had outlined, hitting it, the targets twice. So, and hitting that cluster area. So that was a key area. The next target's down for Bitcoin, 18,280. It's also closed, remember, a few days ago below a few days ago on the 4-hour chart below there, but now definitely closing below that 62.5 on the daily. So even on a rally, still going to statistically watch for a retest of this low area. Let's see. Let me jump back to this other browser. George, thank you for the chat. I need a downside target on ARC. A downside target on ARC. With what time frame? By this double almost off the table with ARC. I mean, your next major target is the full retracement. If you're talking major, you're at 33.11, then you're at 30.49, and then you're at 25.87. Those are your major targets. Your minor targets to the downside, again, I'd just be using these other previous harmonic levels, but 38.50, 37, and then 35.50. But overall, you know my perspective. We come back to rotation zone again, traveling on down. And you can see that's going to be below. Once we break this key area, the 100% reversal, then we're going into uncharted recent territory. You have a pretty substantial couple clear path moves down here. So I'd definitely be keying off this first harmonic, 30.49. Why that harmonic? You also see, look, you have this, I don't know if you can, let me zoom in here. See this resistance from way back in June of 17. How many years ago is that? 5 years ago? That's the next support level. Down once we break to new lows. And that comes in with the harmonic. Pretty much exactly. So that would be my first longer term target. That's how you line up your harmonics and use the price action together. Let's just check in. I know somebody mentioned something in MU. This is really a nightmare since those comments went out. Micron a little, not as bad as I thought. But what are the bigger, let me take those off. Again, remember SMH in sell mode. So you have to take any rallies in something with a sector in long-term sell mode. You have to be very, very careful to the long side because you can get these horrible guidance resistance. So the next targets were 50.87 for the downside, and then 40.48 is a double cluster. So those are your, and it's now back below this major. With this gap down, we're below this. So this area is now resistance on any rally. Keep that in mind. What else do we have? Do I have a video that explains how I use harmonics? I think there's a couple things up on the on YouTube. Just shoots for either GAN harmonics or harmonics. I'll have to put together a new thing on it also. Where else do we sit? I haven't checked in on Tesla yet. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. That really frustrates me. Tesla closing below the 62.5 on this little up rally, so I'm still expecting now it to easily retest the lows, which would make it a triple bottom and then eventually break it. unless we get some kind of massive rally. I just want to check something else here. Yeah, that's... Let me just see here. Delete. Yep. So this double is now this double is officially over by double checking the moving up the stop and the other things. So Tesla, I'm expected to retest the lows, but on any rallies, you still have this gap fill in the 4-hour rotation zone. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow, which is to this close of 697.88. Other than that, is tomorrow a half day? No, William, it's not. Again, it's not. Let's see if I missed anything. Sorry again. Let's just cut this short. We've had some issues today, and we've gone a couple long sessions this week. I will be back on again tomorrow morning. And this wasn't, I don't know what triggered this, because it was, the Bob issue was separate. That's just because he was trying to do this from his car and still get everybody, taken care of with their questions. I don't know what happened with Ecamm. I'll have to try to figure that out. But do me a favor, for anybody attending the live stream at 8 a.m. tomorrow, please come in and put comments in ASAP so I can make sure we get any hiccups out of the way. If you could do that for me. Until then, thank you for joining. I will be back on tomorrow morning. Remember the major numbers. Let's see, please come back. Tomorrow are all after the open, so there shouldn't be any surprises. So overall tonight, the only thing when I wake up to look at Europe, it's going to be what happens with Europe. It's going to help define stuff, but there's nothing before the open to really modify stuff, so we can get really well prepped for the first trading day of July. Until then, thank you for being here. Chat with everyone later. Bye for now.